Hello people, welcome to another video of the React series. Today we are going to learn how to do the development environment ready for our React application development. Not only that, we are also going to learn about a workflow that will help you to set up the entire pipeline such that the moment you do anything incremental into your application, you can actually make them publicly available to someone to view. Why it is important? Because public learning is important. So as and when we'll start doing a lot of projects and you will be able to showcase them somewhere, you actually want to host them publicly, you want to make them available publicly. So we learn both the environment, how to do those, in a very, very quick section. Before that, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe to this channel because I keep publishing a lot of good content and I'll be doing that going forward as well. All right. So without wasting any much time, let's get into the business. So the learning about the development environment and the live environment would be great if you understand the workflow that I'm going to talk about now. I want you to pay special attention to that workflow because that is going to make the life much simpler. In general, people actually do such workflow towards the end. I mean, when they're kind of done with project or applications. But here we are going through a kind of course where we'll be doing a lot of projects. So I want you to get it done in the beginning so that, whatever code we are writing, we also make sure that those code work in the production as well. Okay, so let's get that workflow. Let's see how exactly that works. This particular picture depicts that workflow that I was talking about. So take a kind of closer look. Here is a person who is sitting on the table and chair in front of a computer. That person is nothing but it's you or me, who is the application developer, who is developing their application locally and want to kind of test the things locally and then kind of push it to a commit and push to a repository. The repository could be a Git-based version control system like a GitHub or Bitbucket or anything else. So the push happens, it goes to GitHub. And what happened here, the magic happens. Now, there are specific vendors who are like software as a service or platform as a service or infrastructure as a service. There are different kind of, vendors out there, different kind of, cloud related vendors are out there. To name a few, we have like Vercel, we have like Netlify, we have like Heroku, right? There are other many famous one as well. So what we can do is we can actually integrate, those services along with GitHub so that the moment we actually push a code to GitHub, a build kicks off. Once the build kicks off, what happened is whatever the build artifacts after the build happens, it can be automatically deployed for you into some kind of CDN so that it is kind of publicly available, securely available and provides a URL to access this particular app. Now, this app could be a customer facing app that you can give that URL to your customer or the user, or you yourself can test it out hey, in production, I am not probably going to get any kind of surprises. So for every commit, think about the power. For every commit that you are making, you can actually not only testing it locally, you can also test it on public, globally, publicly in the production mode. It is kind of working as expected. So we are going to do this setup in this video so that from now onwards, everything that we learn, every code that we do, you will be able to test it out not only locally, also publicly, because you want to showcase your work, right? So this is why we want to go through this workflow. Okay, let's get it done. The easiest way that we can get started with React development is just pointing to a couple of scripts. Those are kind of hosted publicly on a CDN from our own script. It is a JavaScript based programming, so we can have our own script, and inside the script, using the script tag and the src like this, we can actually point to two very important things. One is react.development.js file or react.dom.development.js file. This development and production files just kind of signify that this is for the development purpose and this is a minified production file. But ultimately what we are pointing to here is basically a react.js file and react.dom.js file. These are the two files that we need to get started, and we can actually get started. But there is a catch, right? So we will learn in our next video, there is the specific thing called JSX, a specific format that syntax that React uses for its or basically it suggests you to use to code which your browser doesn't understand. JSX is basically very much React specific syntax that your browser doesn't understand. Browser understand at the end of the day, that is HTML and JavaScript. So it means everything that you're writing in that JSX format has to be transpiled, has to be kind of translated into something that your browser understands, that is HTML and JavaScript. So if you are doing like pointing to this React and React DOM and getting started with your development, you also have to take care of those transpilation. And for that, you have to learn a tool called Babel. And then you have to do certain configuration with, say, Webpack or Vercel or that kind of configuration library. Now, at some point of time in your web development life, you have to learn those. But we are focusing on learning React now. So we will be focusing on running React. And then at the end of it, when we're talking about the advanced subject, we finish about the advanced subject, we'll also do a couple of videos, or in between we'll do a couple of videos about how to do the Babel setup, Webpack setup, all these things. So I want you to kind of keep those things away and just focus on the React part alone. So this is the reason that we are not going with certain, those kind of critical development environment. Instead of that, what we are going to do, we are going to take advantage of a very, very famous tool called Create React App tool. So with Create React App, we are going to start our application. This Create React App, or the short form is CRA, is also going to kind of take care of all this building, all this transpilation, everything for you. So you are just focusing on doing React code, right? So let's learn what Create React App is and how to get it configured. To learn more about Create React App, you can always go to createreactapp.dev. And this is the page where you have lots of documentation that how to kind of set it up. But ultimately, it is pretty simple. What you have to do, you have to have Node.js installed in your local box. If you are very, very new to Node.js, I already have a video about how to kind of install Node.js, how to get started with NPM and things like that. You can actually watch and come back to this. But let's assume that you know about Node.js and you know about NPM. So if you are kind of installing Node.js with NPM, you can install Create React App, like npm install -g Create React App. It's going to install things globally. We'll see that. And then with Create React App, you can actually start creating your project. But if you don't want to install Create React App tool locally, because this is something that you need only probably once for one application, you don't want to do it again and again. So what you do is you use a command called npx. Npx is basically node package executor. So what it is going to do, this npx is not going to install Create React App locally in your box. Rather, it is going to actually execute this particular command and going to do all the setup for you. So it means that you are not unnecessarily having lot of files on your disk for the purpose of something that you need maybe just once for one application development, right? So I would suggest that you go ahead with npx and use like npx create react app, then the your application name. This my app can be any name that you want to suggest. Otherwise, you do something like this, npm install -g. -g means install globally, and then first install Create React App. I have this Create React App already installed so that I can actually showcase this to you so that I'm not installing it again. And once you have installed this, then what you do is like Create React App and give your app name. Maybe your app name is like, say, something like first app, or everybody starts with hello world. Let's do that. So let's do a hello world app. So once you do that, your app will be installed in a while. So you have to just wait a bit and it will be installed. So you see here that it is actually creating a new environment for the hello world app, and it is resolving the packages, and then we'll be installing all the required packages for you so that you can actually run this app. Just note here, it is going to install the packages for the hello world app. It means that it is going to install this React DOM, it is going to install those Babel, Webpack, all these things. But if you had done this command with npx, it would not have installed the Create React App tool as such in your local box. But in this case, I'm going to kind of showcase that it is another way that you can get it done. So give it maybe a minute. Within a minute, this will be done and you'll be able to see your application is getting ready. The package installation is almost done. What we'll see very soon is a command that it is kind of done, and we'll be able to start seeing like what exactly coming up in the code. So as we see, it is done. You might find few warnings in the console, while the process is going on. Just ignore them for now. So I'm very excited to see exactly what is there, what kind of code that came in and what I have to get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my Visual Studio Code right over here so that I can see it beautifully, what is the folder structure and what exactly my project look like. So let's do that. Here we see the project structure that got created. We have given it as a hello world. So we see this hello world project has got created. Now it has few more folder inside it. Once we see a node modules, this node modules is a folder where all your dependencies, all your libraries are installed by the Create React app itself. You don't have to worry about it. You see this Babel and everything is got installed. Everything will be configured by it, so you don't worry about it. A very special file called package.js where all these library definitions are available. Then you have a public folder where you kind of keep some of the static things like the fab icon, your index.html, if you have a logo and things like that. Then you have a file src where we'll be writing most of our code. We have app.css, app.js and bunch of other files that will eventually have a look into it when we start some of the active coding. So one thing to kind of note over here that this index.html you will hardly touch. Maybe there are few things that you will touch is to change what is the title of your application and things like that. Maybe a font that you want to include that particular time will be changing this, but otherwise you won't do. One thing that note over here, this particular line where we have created a div element and given an ID called root. Okay, so this index.html is the entry point of your application. Whenever you're actually running this React application, this is the entry point. This particular everything that will be writing as an application code is going to appear inside this, is basically appear between these two tag dynamically. And how exactly that will happen? If we go to a special file called index.js, what we'll be seeing is in the index.js, we are actually getting this document.getElement by ID root. So if you have seen in the index.html, we had a div whose ID is root. So we are getting that particular div, and then we are doing some magic to kind of put something into that div. Okay, we will learn about the something in the component and the JSX session next, but think in this way. So why I'm actually explaining this? So as a developer, we tend to kind of clean things up, delete things which are not required. So once you kind of bootstrap your project like this, with Create React app and you get it, you can ideally delete most of the things. Most of the files you can clean up except this index.js file and that index.html file. Except these two files, you can basically delete everything and write things completely in your way. I'm talking about the JS and the HTML file. I'm still not talking about files like package.js and others. Those are kind of required. We will see that cleanup and things like that when we start with our first coding in the next session, in the next video, right? So this is what the project is right now. Now, great. So this project has come. That project has come with few React components. For example, if I go to app.js, this is a React component. The index.js itself is a React component. App.js is a React component. It does few things, right? Now, how am I going to run this particular project so that I see the output of it? So let's do that. To run the project, you use the command called yarn start, or if you are using npm, use the command called npm run start. Once you start the application, what exactly it does is basically it bootstrap a server locally and make this your application, your project actually run from that local server on a particular URL which is having a localhost : a port. I think the port will be 3000 by default, right? So your application will be available on localhost : 3000 whenever you're using this URL from the browser. It also launches the browser automatically and do a superb thing. It does hot reloading. It means that every time you change something into your application, it automatically refreshes in the browser. You don't have to refresh the browser. So things will be much smooth. Things will be much integrated. So we'll see that in a second. It's starting the development server as we see it, and we see that the development server is running on the localhost 3000, and we are very good with this. Let us go ahead and see how it is appearing in the browser. When you see it on the browser, we see this particular UI. Because the Create React app comes up with this UI, we can always go ahead and change the thing and see it is reflecting very immediately. So let's do that. Let's go to the VS Code and do a little bit of changes and see how it is reflecting. In the app.js file, maybe what we can do is like we just remove this logo from here, and then inside this div, maybe we'll remove everything from header to header, and then what we'll do is like we'll do a simple heading and say like hello world, right? This is our first one, and that's pretty much it. This is our first code. So as and when I save it and go to the browser, I will see that it has been changed, and we'll see this hello world appearing over there. You see that? So we have it, right? So this is how we'll be actually doing the development locally, and we'll test the thing as and when we are actually building something. And once we're satisfied, what we're going to do is like we'll be creating our Git repository, and then we'll be pushing the stuff into the Git, and then the workflow will kick off. Okay, so let us go to the last section of this particular video, is like to see how are you going to integrate stuff. All right, let's do that. Let's see this final thing, like how to do this integration. And for the integration purpose, what we're going to show is I'm going to show the integration with Vercel. Vercel is very popular platform, the service kind of make your application available by hosting it on a CDN publicly, and then it also has various different services that will be exploring further down. That we can actually leverage for our application development. But for this video, we'll be just focusing on the hosting and the deployment part, so we'll be learning with Vercel. Similarly, you can also use Netlify or any other services that you are aware of. It doesn't matter basically, but in this video I'm going to show Vercel. So to get started with that, what you have to do is like whatever the code that we have written so far, you have to first commit and push it to your repository. So in our case, the repository is there. I have already pushed my code to a repository called YouTube that I have created already, and inside this YouTube repository you should be able to see a folder called React, and inside the folder I will have a folder called 03 React environment, and then you have this hello world already. It's done. So next what you have to do is like you go to Vercel, and after going to Vercel, just do a registration and then do login. I have already registered and logged into Vercel, and these are all my existing projects whichever I have deployed so far. So for you, if it is first time, you will see it probably blank. No problem. Just go ahead and click on new project, and it will take you through that workflow. So once you click on new project, we know that we have to import the YouTube project. So we go ahead and importing the YouTube project. You can actually import the project that you have created. And here are a few configurations that you have to do. The first configuration is like do you need a framework preset? In our case, it is like React. Next.js is Vercel is intelligence enough to kind of pick this thing, and there are other Next.js and Next, and there are various options already available. You don't have to bother about it at this point of time. But one thing you need to be careful over here. Our code actually inside this particular folder, it's inside 03 React environment and then hello world. So you have to specifically go and select that folder so that the build happen from there. So React, and then we have 03 environment, and then inside that we have hello world. So I am going to build this particular project. If this project at the root of your directory, you don't have to perform this action at all. So in our case, it is somewhat inside. So I am going to do this, and you don't have to touch rest of the option at this point at all, because we don't have such things. We'll have it in the future. Just go ahead and click on deploy, and just wait for these things to get deployed. You will see a build log kind of getting populated here, so like how your builds are going on, if it is failing, why it is failing, kind of stuff. But give it some time. It takes first time it is taking a little bit longer because it's going to kind of download all this dependencies and all. But next time onwards, it's probably going to cache it, so it will be much faster. Good. So build is done. Congratulations. You have everything. Let's go to the dashboard. So when I go to the dashboard, I see like, it has already given me a domain, like, it's called youtube.vercel.app. You can change this domain name anytime. And it also shows the preview of my app. And if you remember, we just did a hello world. So it's exactly the one that is coming. I can click on it, open this up, and we'll be able to see this hello app coming up in a while. So yeah, this hello world, and this is the app. So this URL you can actually share with anybody whom you want to kind of show your application development. This is publicly available. So this is the beauty. Now onwards, in this particular hello world app, everything that you code, everything that you commit and push there will be a build automatically gets kicked off, and this URL is gonna be updated for you, so that you don't have to really take the pain of understanding that what is happening in the development is may or may not work in the production. If there's something failing in the production, you get notified immediately on your GitHub, on your pull request, on your mail notification. If you have the mail integration done with GitHub, you get a mail like if something fail, certain preview build is available, you should be able to explore each and everything. So I really request you to get this kind of setup done in the beginning, so that you actually leverage it much easily later. You don't have to learn all these things later. You can do exactly the same thing with Netlify. Netlify is just another service. Go ahead and explore Netlify. You might want to use Netlify for yourself. Okay friends, so this particular video content might be already known to some of you who are already in the web development doing it for some time. So you can use it as a brush up for you. If you are new to it, please follow along and do this setup that we have done. In the next video, the upcoming one, what we are going to do is like we are going to build our first component. And while doing that, we'll be also diving into the specific concept called JSX. And we'll be building something cool at the same time. And we'll be kind of going a little bit deeper into React, understanding the React related stuff. Alright, so until then, please take a great care of yourself. And please subscribe to the channel. There are a lot more coming. Alright, thank you. Bye-bye.